Phone. Here we go. All right. So should be good now. Should be good. Let's come back to the. Okay, how's that? We should have audio now. I'm seeing levels. I'm seeing all kinds of good stuff. Yeah, look at those whiskers. So yeah, sometimes things get a little wonky with this computer that I have too. But as we're now out of Mercury retrograde, or at least we're lurching out of it and starting to pick up some steam, these things should not be happening with regularity. Okay, so we're back, and we're back live, and let's kickstart this puppy. We've had two debates now. We had debates last night and the night before last, and the highlight of last night's debate was a Tulsi Gabbard takedown of Kamala Harris. This is interesting because back during the early part of the spring, I was doing charts on Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris, and I was looking at them. I go, "Wow, this is a natural rivalry here. They're going to go at it. They are going to meet in the debates, and they're going to throw down." And that's what happened last night. And it doesn't surprise me at all. Tulsi Gabbard is an Aries, and she launched her attack on Kamala Harris with absolute precision. And the one thing you will notice about Tulsi Gabbard is that she does not get rattled. Now, sometimes she looks like she's a bit in a bit of a trance, and that's a whole other discussion. But she doesn't get rattled. She doesn't get rattled. So we're going to talk about that. I'm going to play some video. But before I do that, today's a new moon, right? Today is a new moon. So we should probably look at the chart of the moment. There it is. Look at that. We've got a nice, meaty stellium all in the sign of Leo. We've got Mercury in Cancer, now direct, but we have Venus in Leo, Sun in Leo. We've got the new moon in Leo, and we have Mars in Leo squaring off against Uranus, trining in to Jupiter. This is a live large kind of day. You may want to break some rules along the way with that square to Uranus. And this is, look, everybody, I've been reading things on the internet about the black moon. The black moon. This is the black moon. A heavy black moon. It's a new moon. Okay, it's a new moon. All new moons are black. All right, they're black moons. It's so funny. So does that mean the full moon is a white moon because they look white? This whole moon thing is getting racist. I don't know about it. I don't know about you people. Maybe we'll just have to remove the moon. And only white people went to the moon, at least initially. Actually, they didn't really go to the moon, but you know what I'm saying, right? Anyway, this is a good day. There's a lot of energy today. I even with Uranus squares, I mean, you might double down. You might say things that you're not really believing, and you might have to double down. I mean, I'm sure you believe in them. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure you believe in them, but there is a double down effect with a square to Uranus. So just keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. But I do like the trine to Jupiter. That's pretty tasty. It's like live large, have fun, enjoy yourself, celebrate. Yes, the world is beginning its primordial descent on some level, but you got to find time to have your moments. You know what I'm saying? If you don't have your moments, and what's worth living, really? What's worth living for? We also have a yod going on. That's Neptune and Saturn, and coming right into Mars. Look at that. And then the moon's going to come into this yod pattern during the day. That's going to be interesting. That's going to be very interesting. Anytime you get that in conjunct with Neptune and Mars, it's what are the influences? What are the hidden influences behind what could seemingly appear to be something violent? Because we're dealing with Mars, generic Mars. But it also feels to me like we have to take Leo into account. And it's not about getting your power back. It's about getting your passion back. It's about getting your passion back. How do you get your passion back? Passion and power. They're linked. People have a lot of passion, tend to have a lot of power. That's the way it works. It's energy. You have a lot of passion, you have a lot of power, you've got energy. And we live in a world, in a domain that is an energy game. And if you've got it, it's a good thing. Because you can get a lot done, you generate heat, you generate light, and people tend to be heliotropic and they're attracted to heat and light. Right? That's why on 2 nights ago when Marianne Williamson was in the debate and she brought in the dark psychic cloud and all that stuff, you know, she was invoking the language of illumination, and so people were drawn to it. I don't support Marianne Williamson. I think she's a phony. I don't support her at all. And again, I know there are people who watch this and listen to this, and I'm not including you in this group. But she's a baby boomer, okay? She's 67 years old. She's 67. And she's the wrong kind of baby boomer, as far as I'm concerned. Because it feels to me like, if anybody, I'll tell you the reason why Marianne Williamson is so adamant about reparations is because she has lived a very white and privileged life. Very white and privileged. Extremely white and privileged. She comes from a pretty well-moneyed family in Houston, Texas. Okay, she's never missed a meal in her life. Never. She's done very well. She got into the Course in Miracles when she was living in New York City, and she wrote a book that was based on her awakening. Course in Miracles, if you don't know about the Course in Miracles, it is an MK Ultra document, and heavily influenced by some very nefarious characters inside of the CIA. And the woman who wrote Course in Miracles wound up committing suicide because the material drove her to insanity. So Marianne Williamson published a book and went right to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, and she hasn't looked back. So I think the reason why she's so adamant about reparations is because she has a deep-seated sense of guilt for her own success related to her lack of melanin. Don't take it out on us. Do not take it out on us. I don't consent. Because if you get into the whole reparations game, then you need to just go all the way back to 1913 and the Federal Reserve and the Federal Reserve Act and the bankers and how they've ripped us all off, how the Federal Reserve has manipulated interest rates, created false recessions. Just look at the 1970s, total false recession. It was a terrible time. The 70s pretty much sucked monetarily. We had gas crisis. We had 15 to 16% interest rates. It was the equivalent of the 1920s in a lot of ways. We had gas lines. We had oil embargoes. I mean, it was shit. The 70s, in a lot of ways, were really fun and kind of carefree, but there's always this backdrop of lack and loss and austerity and deprivation. It was part of the demoralization of the United States, and I lived through it. I know what that was like. It was frustrating. I was watching stuff that I couldn't wrap my head around, but I knew it wasn't right. Like, how could this be? How could this be happening? It's because it was manipulated. The reality of the 1970s was manipulated. And that's what we grew up with. But if you want to, that's what I grew up with. But if you want to go into reparations, let's get into the bankers. Let's have the bankers reparate the rest of us. Why don't we have the Rothschilds divest 75 to 80% of their global fortune for planetary reparations for ripping us off? I think that would be a much, much, much better task at hand because everybody would benefit at that point, right? We're going into a place in a time right now that I think is very, very difficult and very, very, very troubling. And every day now I'm watching, seeing, sensing more and more tearing and the ripping away at the social fabric. It's happening. I watched a video this morning. Some, lame ass fourth rate comedian in a small coffee shop doing a comedy routine for about maybe 14, 15 people. And I don't know what the guy said, but some young black dude got up out of his chair, got on stage and started blasting on this guy. And it's not good. It's not good. And the fires of a race war are being stoked. They are. We're being pitted against one another. And this started during Obama. And I have to say, it hasn't abated much during the Trump administration. I'm not saying Trump is racist. I don't think he is. I don't think he's racist. The only color that Donald Trump cares about is green and the Israeli blue of the Star of David flag. Those are the colors that I think are really the most important to him. And then red, white, and blue. But I don't think he's racist. If you can make him a buck, Donald Trump, love you. Love you till the cows come home. I don't think that's ever been an issue for the guy. So is he stoking these fires? I don't think so. I think it's the left. Now, everything's gone away from being Russia, Russia, Russia to racist, racist, racist. And because Trump happens to have the same skin tone that I do, there's a trickle-down effect, and there's going to be anger in the streets, and it's already starting to happen, which is unfortunate. If we could somehow pull together, all be on one side, which would be a wonderful thing to do, then we could actually stare down where the real shit is coming from, right? The international banking community, the Rothschilds, the Federal Reserve, the families that are related to them. That's where it's at. That's where it's at. It's the hedge funds. It's the fat cats on Wall Street. It's the manipulation of interest rates, and it is the manipulation of the algorithms on the stock market. You wanna find a really, really juicy perpetrator pool? There you go. That's where it's at. And then all their attendant cronies. People can't connect the dots like that. They refuse to because they want to polarize and say, well, it's this group over here. It's this person over here. And it does happen. And I'm not polarizing against the banksters. But that's a fact, Jack. So if you wanted to really get into the reparations thing, let's go all the way with it. All right. I want to play this Tulsi Gabbard clip. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. And people are saying that the idea here would be a Gabbard Biden ticket. Well, Biden's got to make it through. Biden is in bad shape. He's in really, really bad. That guy, if somehow Joe Biden got elected, I do not think he could last an entire term. I don't think it's happening. I just don't. All right. So let's get into the Tulsi takedown of Kamala Harris and watch the expression on both of their faces. They're very different. Very, very different. Tulsi is she flatlines. And Kamala Harris, you can just tell, man, she is seething on the inside. All right, let's cue this up. This is Tulsi's takedown of Kamala Harris last night.
You took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response?
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response,
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
Wow. I could play that a few more times. Did you notice that they were dressed in that alchemical black and white mode? Did you see that? I mean, Harris was a little bit on the charcoal gray side, but clearly trending towards black. And of course, Tulsi was in white. So Tulsi was the good cop last night. Kamala Harris was the bad cop last night. Got to get a little duality in when we do these things, don't we? But Tulsi is, she reminds me of quarterbacks in the NFL who are flatliners, like Eli Manning or Joe Flacco or Tom Brady. For the most part, Tom Brady. These are guys that don't show a lot of emotion. They just flatline and they play. She's got the flatline gene. Kamala Harris, you could just tell, man, she was thinking 6 ways to Sunday how she's going to get this bitch, right? I'm going to get this bitch. I'm going to get her. I'm going to cut her up good. Right? You can just see that on the inside. She's adjusting her hair, rolling her eyes. Man, I mean, the body language is a big deal in debates like that. You got close-ups, you got millions of people zooming in on your facial expression. And Tulsi was cool as the other side of the pillow, and Kamala Harris was hot and bothered. So it's pretty clear who won that little exchange. It was Tulsi Gabbard. And Kamala Harris went on to say that, well, of course, she's only getting 7.5% of the popularity poll or whatever, so that she's trying to get to the next level of the debates. Well, of course she is. And she said that she's the presumptive favorite. This is what Kamala Harris said. A lot of arrogance, a lot of pride, a lot of hubris. Anyway, it was for a few minutes. It was interesting television viewing. I was talking earlier about what I saw on that video, which was very troubling. Very, very troubling. I mean, hopefully it put an end to this guy's comedic path, because he wasn't very funny. So maybe that's an upshot of what happened. But it's troubling nonetheless. And we're starting to see a pattern of this now. And it's not just at the street level. It's happening at an organizational level. So there was a story yesterday that there was a woman who was basically forced to step down from a pretty senior position inside the Democratic National Committee because, well, she happened to be white and they wanted more diversity. Well, the trickle down has started to take place. This is from the Examiner. And is that Democrats just purged white party staffers, and it's a bigger deal than anyone wants to admit. It's a very interesting topic of exploration. Let me read some of this to you. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the House Democrats' powerful campaign arm, has just abruptly purged half a dozen staffers. Why? Because they're white. It appears that no one had anything against these particular staffers except for the color of their skin. although roughly half the committee's full-time staff, 13 of 27, were non-white. So almost half the staff were non-white. This was not enough for some Democratic members of Congress. They complained DCCC Chairwoman Cheri Bustos of Illinois had brought in too many white staffers. I guarantee you most of them were women, by the way. When she won the position, they put enough pressure on her that she sacrificed her loyal staffers to the god of diversity. Even if all these staffers end up with cushy lobbying jobs as a reward for their loyalty, this is still a lot more shocking than people perhaps realize. There are two possible interpretations of this mass purge at the DCCC. Either a few Democrats are making a racial issue out of a patronage question, once again knifing each other under the cover of intersectionality, or Democrats are genuinely angry that half the staff at the DCCC are white. As often happens with the Democratic left, it is difficult to tell where the insincerity ends and the fanaticism begins. But either interpretation implies this is not a party fit to govern. Nobody wants to see whites take up identity politics or demand certain quota of jobs anywhere. But that isn't what this was about. This is about an organization that fires people from their current jobs because of their skin color. The insinuation that racist influences led Bustos to choose her staff and pass over non-white candidates marks a continuation of what New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez started when she absurdly accused White House Speaker Nancy Pelosi of racism and sexism. This firing, and what it is, not a free resignation, sends a message to everyone, and especially to young people of any race who are interested in politics. If an organization is actually willing to fire you from your job just because you're white, do you really want to be involved with it? This is a really troubling trend that's taking place. And at some point, we have Kirsten Gillibrand offering to go to white neighborhoods to speak about white privilege. In the meantime, they're having so-called white people being fired from the Democratic National Committee. This is a real paradox and a serious breach of trust and faith in the ideals of this, or the so-called ideals of this party. And I'm not here to run down the Democrats because they're the Democrats and I'm a Republican. That's not the case at all. What I'm bringing up here is a very troubling issue that reminds me of the glory days of Stalinist communism. You know, that if you're not a part of the party, you're out of the party, basically. And what are the qualifications of being the party? Well, it's a skin tone a few shades darker than mine. And if you're there, then you're in. If you're not, you're out. And this has been the rallying cry of the new revolution. And they're trying to turn the volume up on this thing so that ultimately there's going to be riots in the streets and people are going to fight and all kinds of terrible emotions and almost a demonic display of emotions will be unleashed, because that's what they're waiting for. They're waiting for people to go into anger and rage, lose themselves, and that's when the possession happens. That's when the possession takes place. I've seen it firsthand, okay? That's when the possession takes place. So not only is this a tool to divide and conquer, which is what it is. Not only is it a tool for demoralization, which is what it is, it's also a ritual. It's a ritual, and it's an invocation of dark forces and dark spirits to occupy people who basically leave their senses. That's what'll happen. And think of all the wonderful and glorious rage and hate and animosity that these entities are going to feast off of. And it's going to be like Golden Corral. So you have to be aware of that. But this is what's taking place. And it's really difficult because they keep pushing the so-called, white society into a corner. And this is what's happening. Push into a corner, push into a corner. And there are some people on the left who say, well, fine. That's great, because look what's been done to minorities over the years. There's not a country in the world that has not supported and financially supported, sociologically supported equality more than this country. It's not perfect. Of course it's not perfect. But, we had a thing called the War on Poverty, which started in the 1960s. It was in 1965, to be exact, 2 years into the Johnson takeover of the White House with the assassination of Kennedy, and that's when the welfare system started, and that's when billions and billions of dollars have been pumped into the welfare system since 1965. Look at what happened with Baltimore. Baltimore had $16 billion last year. $16 billion to go to a city that, for all intents and purposes, is on the decline, right? And we've been instituting quotas, hiring quotas. We've been instituting educational quotas for a very, very long period of time. So this is a country that has extended itself to a great degree in order to have some level of theoretical equality. And even that's not enough. It's not enough. So I think this is going to continue to be a troubling it's going to continue to be a troubling trend. But the Democratic Party is playing fire. They're playing a game of chicken. And if they continue to alienate more of their so-called white voters and more of their so-called white base, they're going to lose them. They already started to lose them during the election between Hillary and Trump, because Hillary was playing the identity politics game, and look what happened. Trump got elected. If the left continues to do this stuff and they continue to isolate and alienate the so-called whites, and particularly white women, they will move. They will move over to the right, and you will lose their votes. So it doesn't matter how, well, maybe it does matter to some extent how many people are being brought into the country so that they can vote on the Democratic side. And maybe this is all part of the plan. Maybe they're parsing out, we're going to lose these votes because we're going to kick them out. We're going to make them feel like shit. We're going to demoralize, but we're going to pick up more votes because of the people we're bringing in and how well and how good we're treating them. And maybe it's a numbers game. They've got it figured out or worked out. I don't know. I don't sit there, and I'm not a part of their cell, their communist cell meetings. But that seems to be the case, and that's what's happening. Interesting times, right? We're in the thick of it. You're watching, essentially, the machinations of an overthrow. This is what's taking place. We are in the midst of the Bolshevik Revolution. They're doing everything in their power to divide and conquer, to foment hate, to foment strife, and to take it to the streets. This is what's happening. They did the same thing in 1917. Back in 1917, it was a class issue. And what they've done now is they've turned it into a race issue, which is unfortunate. Okay. Lot of heat out there. A lot of heat taking place. This guy, Mario Lopez, he's in big trouble. And you can see that little story there. Democrats purge white party staffers due to alleged lack of diversity. See that? So there's Mario Lopez. Mario Lopez had the misfortune of talking about transgender 3-year-olds. Man, the cops are out. The PC cops are out. So basically, here I'll read this story to you guys because I have it up here. Let me see if I can find it really quickly. No, it's not that. Hold on. Yeah, so Mario Lopez became the latest target of the media and leftist hate mobs for saying that he thinks parents should hesitate before declaring their 3-year-olds are transgender just because they say they're feeling a certain way or they think they're a boy or a girl or whatever. Wednesday afternoon, Mario Lopez started trending on Twitter, with the top result being an article from Yahoo News titled, Mario Lopez, it's dangerous for parents to support transgender kids. Yahoo should just be wiped off the face of the internet, by the way. That's another story. But Mario Lopez, I mean, what is inflammatory about this statement? I don't get it. He says that he thinks parents should hesitate before declaring their 3-year-olds are transgender. Just because they say they're feeling a certain way, think they're a boy or girl or whatever. What's wrong with that? It seems like common sense. It seems like, in my estimation, reasonable parenting. Like, let's hold off on this. Let's just give it a couple. Let's give our kid, our boy or girl, a couple of years. Let's see how they develop. Let's see how they unfold. Let's see what happens. If we're still dealing with this when the kid is, 11, 12, 13, maybe we have a discussion at that point. But at 3 years old, are you kidding me? And this guy's taking heat for it now. He's taking heat because he advocated common sense, waiting, patience, not jumping the gun, not projecting onto a little being who can't even tie their own fucking shoes, okay? How could they begin to think that they're a boy or a girl? They can't even tie their shoes. Wrap your head around that. Most kids don't tie their shoes till about 4 or 5. And yet, we're handing the power over to 3-year-olds to determine what sex they're going to be. To me, it's insane. It's totally bizarre and totally insane. And now he's going to have to do the perp walk. He's going to have to walk it back and say, I'm sorry, I apologize. It was insensitive on my part. I have people that I know that are in this situation, and it's a very sensitive time for them, and there's a lot of communication. I mean, he'll have to go through all that bullshit, right? Because if you don't, guess what? You're fucked. You're screwed. You'll never work again. He'll never be able to judge another beauty pageant. See you later. And by the way, how long are we going to have beauty pageants? I don't really care. I'm not a beauty pageant person. But the beauty pageants, I'm telling you right now, they are going to be in the crosshairs. They're going to be in the crosshairs. That's what's going to happen. But before it does happen, you're going to have some very interesting contestants that are going to be a part of the beauty pageant process. Let's just put it this way. The chromosomes won't add up, okay? They're not going to add up. And at some point, we will have, before they kill the whole thing, before they take it down like a wounded wildebeest, we will have a transgender beauty pageant queen. It's going to happen. It'll be Miss America or Miss World or Miss Universe. They may not come from the United States, but it's going to happen. And it will normalize, theoretically, this idea that, oh, look how beautiful you can be. Anyway, Mario, I don't know what's going to happen to you. Well, I do know what's going to happen to you, actually. You're going to do the perp walk. You're going to say you're sorry because you want to work. You need to make money. You've got a wife. You've got kids. You've got a family. You're a public persona, and public personas at your level don't talk shit like that. So get ready. And get on all fours and assume the position. That's not the only censoring that's taking place. Not just the censoring of Mario Lopez. What are you doing, man? What are you doing? He's back. Okay, but he's in a precarious position because he's sitting on my cord. And what are you going to do with the rest of your day? Jasper, do you want to share what you're going to do with the rest of your day to people? I think Jasper's highlights of the day will be sitting next to me while I sit at my desk working. He'll be in the navigator's chair for the rest of the day. Is that right, Jasper? Maybe you'll take a stroll out to the patio, watch some of the birds and the hummingbirds. You think you'll do that today too? He's got a busy day ahead of him. Very busy day. All right, there it is. Remember I covered this a few weeks ago? And I was like, what the hell is going on here? These parents are letting their kids get fondled by drag queens. And that drag queen is like a pig in shit, right? Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I got all these little kids and just crawling all over me. Oh my God, this is great. So good. Oh yes, more. I don't care if you hit the thumbs down button. I don't. I really don't. It happens on its own accord. But okay, let me get back to the image. The image is troubling, but there's a story here. So the library deleted the photos. It's like, yeah. Come on in. Let's have fun. Oh yeah, it's all fun and games until, you get the drag queens getting these kids crawling all over them and having it look highly suspect. Highly suspect. Like, if that wasn't a magical drag queen, would you let your 3-year-old kid like roll over, the big fat belly of some stranger? Would you do that? Would you do that? If you're a parent, would you let your kid do that? Probably not. But because it's a magical drag queen, oh please, maybe you'll get some of that magical drag queen pixie dust rubbing off on you, and you could be a magical drag queen too, right? I don't think. I think that the library realized that they're kind of in deep water here by allowing children and promoting an event where children are having inappropriate contact with an adult. And I don't care, if it's, Miss Sugar Baker Cookie Dough or whatever their names are, right? I don't care. You've got a kid having inappropriate contact with a child or an adult. Yeah, big child is what it is, really. You have a kid having inappropriate, and that's what happened. That's what happened. And who knows what the backstory is with that particular storyteller. They could have a record. They could be a registered sex offender. We don't know. Did the library do any checking? Did the library do any vetting? And by the way, they don't have to dress up and look like, a magical fairy dust drag queen in order to do that. I mean, there are a lot of people that have, the records as sex offenders. Right? When I coached baseball, they had to run a background check on me. Every year, I'd have to submit to a background check. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that, because if I had a kid playing on a team and the coach was a registered sex offender and the league didn't know about it and somehow I found out about it, I'd be pissed. I would not want my kid on that team. So maybe the library should do a little bit of vetting for anybody that has any kind of interactivity with children. Maybe that's really a deeper part of the story. And then we could take it out of the so-called, hate for drag queen storytelling icons. Just maybe you should just do background checks, period. End of story. That might be a good thing. Like I said, I'm an anti-Big Brother guy, but I submitted to that because, again, knowing if my son was on a team and the coach or the manager was a registered sex offender and the league didn't find out, that would be an issue. That'd be an issue. So there we go. Mario is now being censored for his woefully insensitive statements. And the pictures now are being censored. They're being deleted. But you saw him. You saw him here. You saw how bizarre it was. Anyway. These are very interesting times we're living in. Very, very interesting. And, I can't take you down the alley of ill repute and disrepair, because it's there and it's happening and it's not going to change anytime soon. And I'm just being straight up with you. It's going to get weirder. It's going to get weirder, trust me. And there's going to be more and more finger pointing, more and more politically correct handcuffing, and it's just going to happen. We are in a fight. We're in a battle. We're in a war for the truth. And if you're really committed to the truth, it's a sword that cuts both ways. It is not a partisan sword. It is a bipartisan sword, and it allows a person to be critical and discerning in any area of this existence and reality. Truth is a free-range proposition. It's what it is. And this is you're on the front lines of it. You're on the front lines of it. And it doesn't have to be hateful. Truth is connected to love. It's connected to love. Because we love our children, we will be truthful when we feel that they're being psychologically or physically abused. Right? The two are linked together. If we feel that our innate human spirit, a spirit that is a divine spark, which allows us to be innovative and creative and have empathy and create community, if we feel as though that spirit is being put into shackles, then we have an obligation to speak truth to power, because we love that. That's what makes us humans, because it connects us to the divine. And it's through us that the divine and the sacred begin to manifest in our works and through our works. And so when we're put into shackles around that, we must speak truth to power, because it limits us. It limits our potentiality, and it limits the power of this tremendous cosmic spirit. The Most High that runs through each and every one of us and everything on this planet. And it's been an ongoing war for centuries. It's not anything new. What's happening now is the masks are coming off. It's like that scene in the Eyes Wide Shut party. And they're all wearing those Venetian plague masks. And then now the masks are coming off. And we're starting to see behind the facade and who these people are and ultimately what the intent is. So it's not anything new. It may be amplified. There may be more of a generalized recruiting process taking place, but it's nothing new. The cards are on the table now. So stay strong, right? Stay strong. Take care of your body. Take care of your mind. Take care of your heart. Take care of your spirit. These are all very important things. And then when you do that, you can help other people. So you're number one. You're ground zero when it comes to transformation and change and anchoring this new reality that we all have inside each and every one of us. And it is a different world. It's a better world. It's a world that's more just and more equal, more fair, without having to sacrifice our own voice and our own creative spirit and our own will and the will of the divine. We don't have to sacrifice any of that to be just and fair and equal. We don't have to. But it all starts with you. And it all starts right here in this new moon. We're in Leo. And Leo's about love. And what are you going to do today that will reinforce your subatomic structure? How will you infuse love into your subatomic structure today? What will you do? And what can you do moving forward to do that? This is where we really have to realign ourselves. And it's a big, big, big playbook, right? It's about the choices you make, who you hang out with, the relationships you have, the work that you do. All these things are really important. And for us to be able to be really effective, those things have to line up. And so we make choices every single day. We make choices about who we want to spend our time with and our energy, right? All that good stuff. All right, I think I'm about out of here. That's what it feels like. Let me get back to zero. Right? Let me get back to zero. Let's see. I guess drag historian firms are paid outside the library from external source. I would agree with that. DQ looks like a Venetian mask. Uncle Glenn, again, Robert is dead on. Drag queen and clown makeup mask, who that person is, their intentions, absolutely. Yep. You guys are on it. You're always on it. You guys are on it. When I delivered to elementary schools, first thing you did was go to the office and get your pet check. Good, Michael. Good. Excellent. It's important. All right, I'm out of here. If you like this conversation, if you like what's happening in the chat room, you want to have an actual physical manifestation of this, come to the Hill Country in October. That's going to be the weekend of the 11th, 12th, and 13th. It's going to be a great time. We're going to have Glenn Streeter. We're going to have the Crimmies. Emily Moyer is going to come and show up and do some stuff. In fact, I'm going to do a mash with Emily later this morning. Joan Sefcik, who is really all about enlightened dentistry and the spiritual connection between your teeth and your gums and the rest of your body, so important. She's going to be there, and my friend Stephen Kent, who's one of the world's best musicians, not just a didgeridoo player, but a phenomenal musician. He's going to be here. He's going to give us a private concert with Stephen Kent. No outside tickets. I'm not selling any outside tickets to that. And I could. If I wanted to, I could sell outside tickets. And I could probably get 15, 20, 30, 40 more people, 50 more people, maybe 100. People will come to see him play. But I'm not. This is going to be our concert. It's going to be our thing. So if you want to be a part of it, come over to robertphoenix.com. That's where I have all the information, and you can begin the sign-up process. And hope to see you. Hope to see as many of you as we can make it possible. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to step into what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have yourself a great new moon. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Oh, Jasper, look at him. What are you doing? You're a doof. Great song. Great fucking song. Great fucking song right there. Great fucking song, Jasper.